I'm not going to take very long at all, and I don't have a lot to say. I'll answer some questions if you have them. But first of all,
you had said about the gun issue.
Yeah. First of all, how many people have never seen me speak before? Never seen me speak before. Okay. Most of the people have seen me at some point around. Okay. All right. So I'm Jack Fiamingo. I'm the president of the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. We started a couple of years ago. And what we're trying to do is protect your Second Amendment rights. Now, the question is, what's the Second Amendment for? And we were talking about the Bill of Rights before. The Second Amendment is not about itself. The Second Amendment is about the Bill of Rights. If you think about it, right, I call the Second Amendment the linchpin of liberty, right? Because if you pull the Second Amendment out of the Bill of Rights, the rest of it falls apart because you have no teeth. Right? It's like trying to eat a steak without any teeth. You can't really get it done. So what we're talking about when I say I'm looking for you to join with us and support in support of the rights protected by the Second Amendment. I never say we're in support of the Second Amendment, because guess what? The Second Amendment was written into the Constitution by men. Men could write it out. It's possible, right? But the rights that the Second Amendment is intended to enshrine can never be written out, okay? Those don't come from men. They weren't granted by a government. As was mentioned before, right? It says the Second Amendment to the Constitution says, a well-regulated militia being essential to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, they were talking to the government. Okay, they were talking to the government. They weren't talking to the people. They were talking to the government. When they spoke about a well-regulated militia, they're not talking about the National Guard, because there was no National Guard. What they were talking about were the people. Okay, at the time of the American Revolution, if you remember, the colonies were organized right loosely into states, right? And they each had militias. Militias really were contained all of the men, able-bodied men, unfortunately, white men only at that time, from age whatever to whatever, okay? And, excuse me?
16 to 60.
16 to 60, okay.
Must have a rifle 60 balls.
Right.
60 rounds.
And the key thing here is that's when they spoke of well-regulated, the word regulated did not mean what we think of it today. It meant armed. Well supplied, that's what it meant, a well-supplied militia.
But it also meant organized.
And organized, yes, right. But it didn't mean regulated in the sense that it was a part of the military. Oh no, just nay, right?
And he just looked up
just the opposite.
definition. It was the irregular army.
That's correct.
It was not a regular army.
And there was a reason for that, because the colonists did not trust the standing army, right? They were very suspicious of a federally controlled standing army, which after having their experience that they had with the British, they weren't looking to just jump into another, right? Exactly, okay? So what we talk about, what I talk about when I talk about the Second Amendment or the Bill of Rights or anything having to do with being American, right? And this experiment that we have that is different from any other government that was ever established in the history of the world, right, is that it's based on individual liberty, okay, right? It's based on individual freedom, right? So it's the right of the people that trumps everything. The right of the individual people, not this group of people, not the Quakers, or the Jews, or the Romans, or the whatever, Romans, I don't know where they came from. But you get what I'm trying to say, is that it's not no group, not the Tea Party, not the Ocean County Citizens for Freedom. It is the people, the individual people. Now, that means, as we were told before, this is not a democracy. This is a constitutional republic. God save us from a democracy, right? A democracy that allows this group of people over from there to here to vote that group of people's rights away, right? So we learned something from the 60s, right? We learned that you cannot vote away the rights of black people because they're black, right? We learned that because the Constitution doesn't allow it. All people are created equal, right? And so even though maybe at the time there might have been a majority, I don't know this, but there might have been a majority of white people that did not want to grant the black people their rights, right? But the Constitution held sway, and the African Americans, the black people at the time, through the efforts of people like Martin Luther King and other leaders, they were able to get their rights despite the opposition, right? That's why we don't want a democracy. We want a union of the states that's governed by a constitution that defines what the government can and cannot do, not what the people can and cannot do. See, the people can do anything. The individual people can do anything except those things that they have assigned to the federal government and to the states. Otherwise, leave us alone, right? Now, where's the mistake? The mistake is that we allowed our representatives, right, while we were busy raising our families, and we were busy saving our money, and we were busy building our careers and doing everything that a decent American is supposed to do, the people that we elected to represent us, represent our individual interests as people and look out for us, screwed us. Okay? So, what can we do about it? Well, the one thing that we must do about it right now is make sure that they do not disarm us. Now, is the Second Amendment about guns? No. The Second Amendment's not about guns. It's not even about arms. It says the right to keep and bear arms. But why? Why do we have the right to keep and bear arms? To protect our liberty.
Absolutely.
Right, okay, so I will always say, you'll always hear me chant, life, love, liberty. Life, love, liberty. All right, because it's there for us to be able to protect our lives, protect our loved ones, and protect our liberty. Okay, that's the reason for the Second Amendment. So always keep that in the back of your mind, and I want you to join us. We're having this rally. I want every single person there, okay? I don't want any excuses. You know what I told my people? I said, if you're not there, you better show up the next day with a note from your mortician. Because that's the only excuse that I'm going to accept, all right? Why? Because it really is this important. You know, I'm not making a joke out of it. This is not... Look, I'm 64, I'll be 64 years old this month. I retired several years ago, and I could have sat on my butt and eat bonbons, you know, and I did for a while, and that's why I have this. So I'm not doing this for my health, although it has helped my health, I must say. I'm not doing it. I'm doing this because I recognize that we have a really serious problem. While we were doing things right, there was one thing that we weren't doing right, and that was we weren't paying attention. Okay, we didn't pay attention. Okay, and so there's a phrase that you'll hear said all the time. People get the kind of government they deserve. Well, shame on us. Shame on us. We did. Okay, and it's because we were too trusting, and that won't happen ever again. I don't think, at least while we're still around and we still have the armed faculties. Okay, so let me just make this point. This rally is about liberty. Okay, it's about family. It's about love of your own life. Remember, you are the owners of your life. Always remember that. That's the most important thing, because people, I always ask that question, you know, who owns your life? Because if the answer is anything but I own my life, then you're a slave to somebody, right? And even if, you know, I know there are many people that are very religious. Do not misunderstand me. If you believe that God owns your life, ultimately, that's fine. But while He put you on this earth, right? Do you not have the responsibility, right, for your own behavior and what choices that you make while you're here? Okay, well, one of those choices has to be to preserve your life. And guess what? A rabbi told me this, which it opened my eyes. He said, Frank, not only do we have the right to protect innocent life, we have the duty to protect innocent life. And I was floored by that, and that really changed me deeply. So, I'm going to ask you to please, we're getting together. There are buses going out from all over. I've got 12 buses myself, and I know there are other groups that have buses. We have buses going all the way from, well, the ones nearest to you are Cheesequake, probably Forked River, right? Forked River. Forked River, right now we have one bus, but I'll put a second bus. You know, if you people register for it, and we get another 40 people, I'll get another bus. I don't care.
How much?
We're asking for just to cover the cost of the bus. We're not making a penny on this, believe me. It's like, because it's like $1,025, something like that, per bus. 56 seats. I did the math. It comes out to roughly $20 a seat.
You'll be losing money at
that. Yeah, we'll be losing money, but that's okay. Here's what I asked, okay? I wanted to just kind of cover it so we didn't get murdered. And I asked people if they would want to make an extra donation. There's a thing there you can click for a $10 donation. I'd love you to do that, but I'm not, I'm not here for the money, honestly, folks. This is not, we're a nonprofit organization. There's no one in the new time, I know I'm probably taking up more time than I should, but there's no one in our organization that gets us paid anything. We don't get benefits, we don't get salaries, we don't take a penny out of this. It's all volunteers, like myself, who are doing this because it's such a passion for us, okay? So you can trust that all your money's just going back into the cause, yes?
Where are you going?
Okay.
When are you
Okay. The rally is going to, as I say, there's a bus leaving Forked River at, I believe it's 7 o'clock in the morning, okay, on Friday, February 8th, the morning of Friday, February 8th, okay? It'll be leaving at 7 o'clock, be arriving in Trenton in plenty of time for the rally, which starts at 10. The rally only runs for 3 hours, all right? It's going to run from 10 to noon, because I don't want to, kill anybody. It's going to probably be cold, and hopefully, maybe we'll get a nice one like we had yesterday. That would be nice, right?
Great.
But it's 10 to 2.
2 hours.
10 to noon, excuse me, 10 to noon. Sorry, 3 hours.
2 hours.
10?
10 to
10 to 11, 12,
12.
Oh, my God. Well, then I guess we're going to go to 1. Yeah, I need 3 hours. That's all I know.
Do we break Christy to speak? The hot air will keep us going.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Christy, I invited him in front of a bunch of people who were there from the Americans for Prosperity, and he said yes, pending his schedule, which of course, of course. Well, of course, pending his schedule. I mean, he's the governor. So I understood that. So then I went back and I called his office and I said, look, before I don't want to commit the governor to something or make a mistake. Is it appropriate for me to put him on the schedule? And they said yes. So I put him on the schedule, and then the next day a reporter asked him, oh, I saw that you're going to be speaking. And they said no, they never confirmed it. So I don't know if he's showing or not, and frankly, I don't know. I invited him because he's the governor, and I wanted him to see the thousands of faces that are
Call him out on Gerhard.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Here's the deal. It's not about him. It's not about the governor. It's not about our legislature. They're not even going to be in the session, and I don't care. What it is about, it's about all of us. All right, we need to see each other. We need to see thousands of people, right? Out on that alcove, between the two buildings. That's where we're going to be. Where the Ron Paul had his thing, right? Okay. We're going to be in that alcove. There's going to be thousands of us. We're going to have some good speakers. We're going to have people that are believers, okay, in liberty are going to be talking. And the most important thing is you're going to be able to look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you and behind you. You're going to see a sea of people that think the way we do about liberty. That's why we're doing this. So please join us. If you need any information, just go to nj2as.com. That's NJ for New Jersey, 2A for the Second Amendment, S for Society, nj2as.com. You'll find information that you need there, and I encourage you to please go and get, if you have questions, contact me. I'm easy, yes.
One question.
Website again,
nj2as.com. Okay, thanks everybody.
One question.